I was sitting under the table of my senior kindergarten classroom, and I was trying really hard not to get my hair stuck in the wads of gum that were stuck underneath the desk. I didn't have the kind of social credit you need to explain why you have other people's gum stuck in your hair. I was the new girl. I was the one who would leave class in the middle of the class to go to the English as a second language classes they had. My family and I had immigrated from Iran that year, and so I was the new girl who didn't understand the social norms. I was the one who didn't quite understand the language and what people were saying. Earlier that morning, we were in the yard before the morning bell, and a boy shoved me, and I fell. The teacher came over and said, "Jordan, apologize to Nargis." So I stood up, and Jordan said he was sorry. He didn't mean it, but he said it. And the teacher turned to me and said, "Nargis, what do you say?" I don't know. I didn't know what. I don't say anything. Jordan pushed me. I didn't have the vocabulary to say that to her, but I was also a shy, reserved, quiet girl, so I didn't talk back. I just looked at her. She said, "Nargis, what do you say to Jordan?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "You say that's okay." But it wasn't okay. He pushed me. So I just looked at her. She said, "Nargis, say that's okay to Jordan." And so I didn't want to get in trouble for Jordan pushing me. I wasn't about to get in trouble for it. So I listened and I said, "That's okay." And we went inside. When we go inside the classroom every morning, we hang our backpacks on the hooks in the cubby area, and we wear our indoor shoes. So I was changing into my indoor shoes like usual, but I was having trouble putting my shoe on. I just couldn't get it on. The right one was fine. The left one I couldn't get on. And all my classmates went inside at their tables, and I was still trying to get on my left shoe. And the teacher came over and said, "Nargis, you gotta stick out the tongue." And I did it, but I didn't understand what sticking out my tongue had to do with putting on my shoe. So there I was, sticking out my tongue, yanking up my shoe, trying to get that tongue propelled pull, and it wasn't working. My teacher came over and laughed and said, "Nargis, you have to stick this out. This is the tongue of the shoe," and she pulled the flap out. I went to sit with my classmates. We were sitting around round tables, and there were 6 to a table. And as soon as I sat down, the announcements came on and said, "Rise for O Canada." And I sat across from Amy, and as we were singing O Canada, I saw Amy's freckles move. And they moved just the same way that they moved when she ate her lunch. And I know how they moved when she ate her lunch because I was so envious of her lunch. Almost every day she had the same lunch. And as I was eating my rice and kebab, I looked at her exotic sandwich, and I just wanted her sandwich so badly. And I never thought to ask my parents for what Amy was eating, partially because I'm a quiet, reserved girl and I don't ask for things, but also partially because I don't think I get everything that other people get because they're different, they're special. I don't belong with that group. Just like ballet, Amy and Crystal and Joanne and Jane, they all went to ballet classes at the local community center, and I wanted to go to ballet classes so badly. They were special. I couldn't go to ballet classes, so I never thought to ask. I was in everything else. My parents had me in skating, swimming, art, piano, everything, but I never thought to ask for ballet classes. Same with Amy's sandwich. Bologna on white bread. I did so badly, I can still remember it. O Canada ended, and we all sat down, and morning announcements started. Now normally, in the Toronto public school system, that's when the morning ritual ends and the learning begins. But in our class, our teacher had an extra ritual after morning announcements. In our class, after morning announcements, we would recite a Christian prayer. Now I want to stress, this was the Toronto public school system. Public, not Catholic. And so our teacher, though, she would have us recite this Christian prayer every morning. And you might say, Nargis, a little bit of Jesus isn't bad. In fact, Nargis, you could use some extra Jesus in your life. And that may be true. But just think about it. Think about your child sitting around the table with her classmates in a Toronto public school system, and imagine the teacher in that school asking them to recite a Muslim prayer every morning. No bueno, Sally, am I right? Yeah, so I didn't know. At 5 years old, I didn't know this wasn't okay. And so I needed to practice because I learned how to say hallowed be thy name before I learned to say bologna sandwich. And definitely before I learned to spell bologna sandwich. And the way I got to do this is I took the prayer home and I kept practicing and practicing to be able to recite it with my classmates. One evening I'm practicing this prayer and my mom comes and says, "What are you saying to yourself?" And I tell her that our teacher has us pray at the beginning of class, and my mom was livid. So the next morning she comes into class and she, in her broken English, but in no uncertain terms, tells the teacher, "It is not okay for you to be having these children pray in the mornings." So that morning, after morning announcement, my teacher looks at me and says, "Nargis, go sit under the table." So there I was, under the table, pulling my skirt under my leg to protect it from the cold linoleum floor, careful that my hair didn't touch the gum that was above my head, waiting for my class to finish their prayer so I could come sit at the table with my classmates. I didn't think to say anything to my mom or my dad because I was a shy, quiet, reserved girl, and I didn't know to speak up. 40 years later, I found my voice, I speak up, and I unapologetically demand a seat at the table. Thank you.